Hey everyone, so Ayana here with Am.A-line Collections. I have a great group of ladies here with me. We're just missing one gent, but that is okay. I'm here with my lovely family from Cincinnati. They've taken me in as soon as I moved in. I'm here with Jessica and Jen, and we're going to have a great just conversation about what's going on with the protests, COVID, and our own experiences as female women in America. So I just want to know from either one of you what's been going on and how you've been dealing with things since you've been in quarantine for the last 3 months.
It started off super challenging at first, but then once you kind of got the hang of, the new normal, you kind of started to adapt, I guess. Like, we don't go to the store, we get groceries delivered to us, and then we'll go to Trader Joe's now because they're only letting 35 people in, and we'll go on our daily walks. And when it was super strict, we kept it just to Kreider and I. And then as things started to open up, we just kind of started to stay in our bubble and not so much venture out of that. So pretty much it's kind of our new normal, but yet normal,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been nice to work from home and not have to go in and be able to get things done.
I can believe that. What about you, Jen?
I've been working from home since November. I'm not particularly fond of it. However, if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. I've been venturing out maybe once a week to go to the grocery store. And then I have slowly been expanding the bubble to family and one or two friends, but I've been trying to keep it really small. Just because I have family members that have health problems and I don't want to pass other things along if I can help it. I realize there's no guarantee, but I've been trying to keep things small and close.
I can understand that. Well, I have elderly parents too. Well, they're not elderly, but mom's predisposed with, having had cancer before, and then dad's 65, but he's still doing his thing.
Right.
So, working and doing all of that fun stuff, being busy, running between 2 funeral homes and trying to get the business going. So, it's cool. But other than that, I felt like having this conversation, which we've had before, was going to be pretty important just because we all need voices. And I know Jessica participated in a protest, maybe twice. So I don't know if you wanted to share your experience with that or anything else that you may want to share with everybody.
Well, I felt like there was only so much that, we could do at home, from donating to sharing to educating to reading to really sitting back and listening. But we couldn't stay silent anymore, and we had to do something more, action, whether it was going down to protests or volunteer or something. So we ended up going down to the courthouse and protesting, and it was really, emotional in the sense because everybody there was, we're fighting for the same thing, yet everybody was so nice, and it was a wave of emotions, right? There was anger, sadness, yet you're empowering yourself to do change in the world. So I don't know, I caught myself kind of tearing up certain times because you just really felt all of that. And we have pictures too from it, and something, we've got to do something. And these are conversations too that I've had with coworkers and trying to educate them really of why, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was something that I'd want to do again, or walk or attend some of the events that are going on in Cincinnati. I know there was a really big one on Saturday and Sunday, and there was over 1,000 people, and it was really amazing to see the city rally together and really fight for change.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
Jen, I know you have some experience with Chicago.
I,
So,
I lived in Chicago for 6 years. It was when I lived there, it was definitely a culture shock for me. You know, I grew up in a suburban town in Wisconsin. And when I got down there, everything was new. And I had to learn so much about, you know, what it meant to live in a city. And I've always been really grateful for the time that I lived there because I felt like it opened up my eyes to how other people live and other people's lived experiences probably more than anything because they weren't not everybody grew up the way that I did, and it definitely opened my eyes to that as well. I feel like I'm still learning stuff along those lines though.
yeah.
I don't feel like you ever stop. And if you do, that should be telling you you have more work to do.
Absolutely.
You know? Um, but you know, growing up, I was not it was a small town and there was not a lot of diversity. So moving to a bigger city, um, there were things I needed to learn, and people put me in my place, and rightfully so. And thank goodness that they did. You know, yeah, I've always been grateful for the fact that you know when I lived there, people were not afraid to tell me when I was being an idiot, and I appreciated it. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
so
So, with your background in Chicago and that whole experience, is there an experience that sticks out most to you through that 6 years?
in what regards?
Uh, I guess anything as far as I know we've talked, with you being in the school system before and having different experience with different students and going from one side of Chicago to the next.
That
So is
actually
there?
was not in Chicago. That was when I moved
Oh,
back to
okay,
Milwaukee.
gotcha.
I student taught in MPS, um, which is one. I mean, it was it was again another eye-opening experience of of unlearning things for me in particular, and just that sometimes when somebody is giving you an attitude, that doesn't mean that the attitude you're perceiving it as is really how they mean it. That's who they are, and you kind of have to accept it, um, and go with it. And maybe attitude isn't the right word I'm looking for, um, but definitely different than what I was used to. And again, another lovely eye-opening experience. um, yeah, because I student taught in Milwaukee Public Schools, and then I student taught um, in one of the other suburbs, and again, very different. Though, but yeah, I don't know. My words are going away on me. I'm
That's okay.
not doing very well here.
You're fine. It's been a long day. I mean, it is 8:15. We've all worked a full day, so.
Yes, yes, we have.
You know, it's kind of interesting that you bring up a bigger city like Chicago and then kind of reference back to Milwaukee to being a big city. One of the things that I've definitely noticed is like I'm not from the United States, and growing up like through ESL classes and being surrounded by people who didn't look like me, who were still part of my culture growing up, and then going to school in the South and then living in Houston and still having that community that is very diverse, and then moving to San Francisco, same thing, it's the same little bubble, yet like moving to Cincinnati has been a super eye-opener in regards to like facing different forms of kind of discrimination in a sense where it hits you a little bit harder because like you're actually seeing it now, like you're like, oh wow, like I've never experienced this as much, and it's kind of heartbreaking because you see it a lot, and through your eyes it can hinder, it can harden you because you don't want to be vulnerable or open given what has been happening, you know, like being a minority woman in the tech field, and then, you know, having to really be not being like a diverse, you know, atmosphere sometimes. Like not everybody looks like me yet. Like I've learned a lot from friends, and we've had these discussions, you know, y'all, we've had these discussions several times, and it's really, it can be really heartbreaking, but it can really constitute for growth too, and a sense of like we can teach each other a lot of things to make a better world and like kind of heal those wounds.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. Go ahead, Jen.
I think it's about listening to those experiences too, and understanding that those are real things. And for me, it's very different, but I've seen those things happen to other people, and I've never thought that it was okay.
Yeah.
So when someone tells you that, you have to me, you have to believe that, and you have to listen to those experiences and speak up when you see them happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Sure. Can't discount somebody's experiences just because you weren't there with them when it happened.
Exactly.
For sure. I mean, you know, like Jessica and I share the fact that we went to school in an SEC conference. So for me, you know, growing up in Northern Virginia, I've had diversity, but, you know, going through elementary school, there may have been maybe like 3 kids, 2 or 3 Black kids in a class. We started getting more Latino and Hispanic students, maybe when I got to 4th and 5th grade, some Asian students later on. It didn't really grow until about middle school, but then, you know, getting to Alabama after experiencing all that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I felt the divide in the room, and then I saw it. Like I just looked behind me and was like, okay, so we have most of the Black kids all in the front and the white kids are in the back, and then everybody else in between who like mingles with everybody is like kind of, you know, third middle rows. And it was just so strange. And that was just orientation. I mean, otherwise the rest of school was okay off and on, other than, you know, going to a frat party here and not even being talked to, even though I had class with some of these guys. And then going somewhere else and being like, oh, okay, we're all cool, you know, it's normal, what I'm used to growing up, diverse group of friends, and, you know, we can go from there. But like you both mentioned, you know, you can't discount somebody's experience, and you also sitting down to talk about it and not taking offense and just hearing people out and actually talking about it can make such a difference. I mean, you know, I think that it needs to happen more. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it because it's very uncomfortable, but you know, it's important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like a lot of organizations too really need to have those conversations and really have the education portion, and a mutual understanding of like, hey, I understand where you're coming from, and put that into their diversity and inclusion plan, and like really just open up to a whole different, you know, vulnerability, to say the least, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's always interesting too to have those conversations with your family members that are super conservative, and then you really start to feel them like wiggle, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, which is weird because it's your family.
Like, my dad is a prime example. Like, I literally love confrontation with him in all sorts of fashions because I always educate him, and, you know, we have uncomfortable conversations because he needs to be a little bit more open. And let's face it, like, I'm a brown kid in America, like, come on. Right? So yeah.
Jen looks like she's biting her tongue.
Well, I think some of I am one of those people where I would probably be the squirmy person, but at the same time, I think those are conversations that need to be had. People need to be made uncomfortable to actually get things to change
Mm-hmm.
and to be educated. And I understand that that's not always the other person's responsibility, but sometimes somebody isn't going to educate themselves if they aren't made to see what they need to educate themselves on, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it came out very well or not, but and I, again, because those experiences are true, you need to listen to them, and they can't be discounted.
Right. I feel like in our friend group, we kind of push those boundaries and that those uncomfortable conversations, because we want to get perspective and we want to have better understanding for past experiences or current experiences, or how you're currently feeling about the world or what's going on in your personal life. You know, just to not only be a support system, but really help and educate ourselves into different perspectives, I guess, is why we do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful that we have such a diverse group, and, you know, that you guys took me in because you already had your own friendship and everything. And I just happened to come in and y'all welcomed me with big arms. So, you know, and it's just funny because being your client, both of your clients, it just worked out.
Well, it's funny too, because like you were a client, and then Jen and I were working on a project together, and I can't remember which project it was, and then that kind of went into fruition, and then, you know, we all just kind of came together and have our little group of friends, which, I mean, I love our friends, and I'm over here like, Drake, no new friends after this. But, you know, sometimes there's people like that you want to welcome in with open arms. So I'm pretty sure we'll meet someone who'll need a family, and they'll be awesome, and we'll take them in and be like, hey, come hang with us. So yeah. One of the cool things that we have been doing at work that I'm like super proud of, and it was really special. We do this thing called tip bombing, which we just all pitch in. I know it's kind of funny, which we all pitch in for different restaurants, but like we actually donated to two organizations, the Black Collectives and then LGI. And it was really cool because we raised about $1,000 and we're donating. So awesome. I thought that was a really cool initiative and kind of a different thing that they've done. So I was like, all right.
I'm just going to promote the Black Visions Collective because I think they are an amazing organization. They don't on their website, they don't necessarily promote it, but they are for Black, trans, queer community. And I love their mission and what they are all about. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's important. And thank you both for, you know, mentioning the organization. I was actually looking into a few things the other day and came across, I already forgot her name, but the pledge and the petition is 15% pledge. I don't know if you guys heard about it recently, trying to get 15% of Black businesses' products in store and on the shelves. So that's a petition going on now, and I signed up for it. It was like, yeah, sign me up. You know, it's sad that it's not 15%. It's not even, maybe even close to that currently, which you wouldn't think, you know, you don't think about it, you know, just go into the store. But then, you know, someone gives you notice and you're like, you know what? Okay.
Yeah.
I think too, like, with the way things are going, one of the things that I really want to be more conscious about is where my money is going and who it's going to. I don't feel like my money needs to be going to big business if it doesn't have to. Sometimes, unfortunately, that's the way it goes, but I want to be more conscious about where my money is going and who it's going to. My father was a small business owner, and I feel like I should have been more conscious about those things throughout my entire life, but I wasn't always very conscious about it. But I would really like to start changing that going forward.
Same.
I know that's something we've kind of put into motion, right? Like this past year and last year too, where we've supported, you know, small business, Black-owned businesses, and then, you know, have donated a lot. So I feel like that's where my COVID money is going.
Hey. Yeah. I was also thinking about that because I have a whole bunch of ideas. You know, I still technically need to do my own video, but just talking about different things over the last 2 weeks, like, it's not just Black people. Yes, that is the biggest movement because, you know, if you bring us up and then you can bring everybody, other brown skin, other dark skinned people up too.
Yeah.
But then along with that, and I know a lot of people don't want to think about this, probably don't want to talk about it, is we have to stop hating one another. We have to stop discriminating against one another. Either, you know, Black on brown, brown on brown, Black on black, Black on white, and all of it. It's a whole entity. And I know people get mad. I'm not saying not just Black Lives Matter, because they do. I mean, I'm Black, but I have a whole bunch of other stuff behind me that I don't even know about, other than, like, you know, maybe some Native American. I can't tell you what tribe I belong to. There is some French Creole in my family. I know that, but I don't know anything else. And I know there's a lot. I mean, from whatever lineage to either side of the family, you don't know what's in you. And everybody in the world, nobody is purebred of anything. Because if you were, the amount of diseases that come from inbred and, like, pure, even purebred animals have more issues than once you kind of mix in and go through different families. So it's just important for me to say, you know, if all brown and Black people could come together along with everybody else around the world and stop fighting one another, oh my gosh, can you just imagine what kind of world we would have?
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
I know in Phoenix, Arizona, the brown community is doing just that and really rallying again, like, amongst each other, and really, like, supporting each other and holding bazaars and different kind of online events and conversations, just like we're doing now. And it's a beautiful thing to see. You know, my husband is from Cincinnati, and it's been very eye-opening to him, and we've kind of educated each other because we both have different backgrounds. He grew up here, he was born and raised here, and he is, like, a very open-minded person, and it's amazing to be, like, in the same corner with him, because I would have highly expected him to not be as educated in these issues as he is. And, you know, he just, with conviction, is like, yes, no, we got to do this, we got to be better to one another. And he's truly inspired to, like, drive change, and however he can help, he will. So
that's why I would have loved to have him on here, because I know he's got his own stories and stuff that he's had to deal with, you know, growing up. So
yeah, and he's, you know, his two best friends, you know, Phil, he's Mexican American, and, you know, then there's Fred, who's Italian American, and then there's Robbie, who's American, and, you know, he's Jewish as well. So he's diverse in his own way, and has experienced the different side of it too. Speaking of Jewish, I know somebody else who is, and I mean, I don't mean to call anybody out.
I think part of what's so weird for me is, like, people always assume that I'm not. They always assume that I'm Christian. And even though I am not a practicing Jew, because of my family, I am Jewish. And I think growing up, because I think there were only like 4 Jewish people in my town growing up, and 3 of them were in my household. Like I was always treated differently for that.
Yeah.
But that experience too is still different than things that I've heard you and Ayana both talk about. And I think things need to change, because it shouldn't matter. Does that make sense? Like, being different shouldn't matter.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to my my little brother Chris, who is American Panamanian, and we had the conversation of like, you know, he passes, and then there's me who like I don't. And I was telling him, like, I went to a boutique here, and the lady followed me around the whole entire store as I was shopping. And
I've been with you when that happens. It's awful.
Terrible. It's like, if you're gonna treat me like that, my money is no good here. And at least he passes, but he is true to his heritage. But like me, even at restaurants and things like that, we'll be sitting together as people like staring, or, you know, it's been different kinds of service than what other people get. It's just it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Not right.
No, it's plain and simple, just not right. Yeah, because I'm just another person like you. I want some clothes. I want some food.
Yeah. I will never forget walking downtown. Like, I lived downtown when I first moved here, and I worked downtown. So I was walking from my apartment, maybe like my second or third week here in Cincinnati, and somebody called me the S word, you know, the derogatory term, and they yelled out their window when they were driving by. And I just looked and I was like, what in the world is going on? And I've never been called that. I've been called other things, but I've never been called that.
But you shouldn't be called that to begin with. It doesn't matter.
I'm not trying to normalize it, but it's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Again, it's not okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember this other instance. I was working with our CEO, and he just didn't like the fact that I was a minority woman that was like educated and smart and sharp, and, you know, he was not happy that we had to work together at all, and he did everything he could to marginalize me. And it was infuriating, because it impacted not only my career and how I felt internally, but like it personally impacted me and like drove me into a really deep depression, which stunk. So like that's not right. We shouldn't have to go through these. Like, we shouldn't have to feel like that. It's not right. You should feel safe in your own community, and you should feel like
you should be supported.
Yep.
You should feel safe. You should be supported. Sorry.
Hey, it's fine. I know how passionate you can get about this, so let it go.
And yeah, I'm trying not to swear here, okay?
I know, right? I'm like, wait, hold on.
We're back to the teaching days where I'm trying not to swear, okay?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just, it's crazy. Like, there has been so much change in the last few weeks that has happened from protesting and speaking up. It's quite amazing. But why did it have to take this long for that to happen?
But you know what's crazy? So, okay, in Northern Virginia, they've been having talks for maybe the last 3 to 4 years about, you know, the Confederate statues that are across the nation and the couple that are in the States. We have 1 or 2 or something in Virginia, but then there's also a lot of schools that are named after dead Confederate generals and so forth. I mean, they're all over the place. And they were talking about either removing the statue or changing the name of the school, even though a school could have been around for the last 40, 50, 60 plus years. And it's been an issue. But, you know, again, also school systems don't have a lot of money to go ahead and do that. That's a whole rebranding cycle. But yeah, I mean, that's been a big thing lately. In Alexandria, they took one of the statues down that was in, like, dead in the center of Old Town. They took that down. And the mayor was like, yeah, okay. So, I mean, there's a lot. But yeah, why has it taken so long? I mean, constantly you hear our voices, but not this outraged.
It needed to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the voice needed to be heard.
I agree.
At least that's my very strong opinion about it, is the voice needed to be heard.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I 100% agree.
But, well, we're winding down here. So I'm going to, within the next like 2 minutes, give you any last remarks or any final thoughts about what kind of impact we should be making other than speaking up and having these kind of conversations. Jessica.
I'm thinking of all the things that I'm doing now. I really truly feel like, you know, like Jen brought up, like watching where you're spending your money. I'm kind of like the civil actions, like I'm gonna go and protest, and I'm gonna write my mayor and congressman and, you know, police department and get it. I'm going to bug you until you just can't take it anymore, type thing. You know, those are different things that we've done and that have been suggested by other colleagues as well as friends. But I really think, you know, doing all of that and doing things like this, having open conversations, maybe like, you know, we'll hold a live or something and kind of see what our community is thinking and how they're feeling, and, you know, and then that grows into something, and then it's like it's a movement, right? Like we're getting it going. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. But I think through each other, we empower each other by action or by lifting each other up and supporting each other.
Absolutely. Jen?
For me, I would definitely say I would agree with the protesting and speaking up and making sure that voices are being heard. I also think that for me, it's about educating on how to be a better ally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are experiences that I have not lived, but I need to understand that people are going through different things and why we are where we are, so that we don't ever get back here again.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I came up with this idea earlier this week. I heard something about my cousin that happened to her, and she can pass. And then, you know, when she tans, she gets almost to my complexion. But she had something happen to her, so I was like, you know what, I need to sit down and talk to, you know, my cousins, get any experiences that they have, and then just opening it up to a lot of people. So I've been reaching out this week to see who would be amenable to talk, and, you know, just getting a plan, just getting an idea, and making and implementing how we all as a community can make a better place for ourselves, not just by protesting, not just by reaching out, but we need to hear each other on all sides, for sure. But I want to thank you guys. You ladies are wonderful as always, and hopefully we'll be talking soon.
You mean like tomorrow?
Yes.